called communion. Communion. Now, I don't know. That's a loaded term. Communion. This, folks, is a shocking book, and I'm surprised more people are not talking about it. It's a boring book. Here's your book review. It's full of heresy, ridiculing Christians, and it's boring. How's that? Full of heresy, ridiculing Christians, particularly dispensationalists, and it's boring. That's your book review. Now, what if I told you we have a vice president that likes to talk to the dead? Who was it that used to talk to the dead? I think it was Hillary Clinton on the third floor used to talk to the dead, right? Somebody want to fact check me on that? Did Hillary Clinton talk to the dead? Well, she's on video, I think, if you guys will find it. When she talks to Eleanor Roosevelt. Remember that? Look, see if you guys can find the audio clip of Hillary Clinton. Well, when I talked to Eleanor, I think Abraham Lincoln's wife used to have seances in the White House. Can someone fact check me on that? This is all coming off the top of my head, so I would have fact checked it before, but I'm pretty sure that's all accurate. And then, of course, you got Nancy Reagan with her astrology. And, well, J.D. Vance talks to the dead, folks. You're like, oh, come on, Brannon. Well, would you like me to read it to you? I got a lot I can read to you. I've got it all marked up, my friends. And just remember, this dude's like a heartbeat away from from being the president. Okay, here we go. You ready? Chapter 12, page 262. Chapter 12, page 262. Here's what he says. What's what he wrote in his brand new book. Came out in June. Communion. Quote, when I first made some money, I reached out to an 80-year-old cousin to buy the family cemetery in eastern Kentucky. I spoke about this cemetery, probably about a half an acre, in my acceptance speech at the 2024 Republican National Convention. Even as vice president, I try to visit at least once a year. It's a beautiful part of the country, my favorite part in many ways, and I still have relatives there whom I love to see. Because I also visit because I find it oddly comforting to know that I'll be buried among my ancestors. I walk in that ancient plot of land and speak to people long dead. Some of them gone before my grandmother was even born. I visited that cemetery before every major life decision, from proposing to Usha to running for the Senate. I listened to the birds chirp and watched the grasshoppers dance from grave to grave. And I remember that I used to chase the ancestors of those grasshoppers in these very mountains, when the people now buried were alive and breathing and watching over me. I talk to my grandparents and my great-grandparents like patron saints of the episodes and emotions we all experience in the course of life. I talk to Mamaw when I need strength or focus, to Papa when I need wisdom. I talk to Mamaw's mother, Mamaw Blanton, when I need kindness or empathy, and to hear Father, Papa Blaine, whom I never met, when I need toughness. I bought the cemetery for selfish reasons. I wanted to preserve this outdoor temple of the dead for my family and the sake of those buried. I bought it for selfish reasons, too. For the moments of quiet reflection I find only in this place, unique in all the world. I bought it so that when I'm buried, my children will have a place to visit and speak to their ancestors, end quote. He calls it the temple of the dead. He says he talks to them. He doesn't just talk to them. He talks to them when he needs certain things like empathy, toughness, strength, or focus. Folks, what do you call that when you talk to the dead? The Bible specifically speaks against this, but he also admits that he talks to them like they are patron saints. I don't know about you, but if this guy is planning on running for president, that was a big mistake. But how many evangelicals out there do you think will really care about this? Now, this guy is, shall we say, very hostile in many ways to evangelical Christians. But that's not shocking because I think he came to President Trump via way of Tucker Carlson, according to news reports. I don't think Tucker is too fond of most evangelical Christians, certainly not the dispensational Christians. Throughout this book, he seems to have quite the irritation with people that believe in biblical creation. He has a real issue with people that believe in the rapture. In fact, he doesn't have anything very nice to say about Tim LaHaye, who, of course, I knew, and many of you maybe knew or met at one point. He spoke for our Worldview Weekend years ago. He writes on page 19, in the mid-1990s, a wave of prophetic theory was sweeping through American evangelical churches. Is it theory, folks? Is it just a theory? What we believe prophetically, is it just a theory or are we teaching the Bible? It's called the book of Revelation, and a blessing comes from those who study the book, who seek to understand the book. There are letters to 7 churches. It's not theory. There are facts in that book, and there are symbols, and often those symbols are described and explained. Therefore, it's no longer a mystery. Come, and I will show you the mystery. And then the revelation is made. It's no longer a mystery. These are not theories, Mr. J.D. Vance. Now, do we have some theories when it comes to how some of it will play out? Sure. But to categorize prophetic teaching from the 1990s as prophetic theory, well, I think he's deliberately being insulting. He goes on to say, quote, Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins' blockbuster Left Behind books told the story of an impending apocalypse and were widely popular in Dad's church. One old woman told me that I had handsome eyes, which might earn me a beautiful wife if the Lord didn't come before I was old enough to marry. A family member purchased the popular televangelist John Hagee's Prophecy Study Bible, which fused Hagee's prophetic theory with relevant passages from the New King James Bible. I watched telecasts by Hagee and Hal Lindsey, another famous apocalypse theorist. Really, Hal Lindsey was an apocalypse theorist, huh? Now, you don't have to agree with all of these men. You can disagree with them. But to claim that everything they were teaching was just a theory, I have heard Hal Lindsey. I have heard Tim LaHaye spoke for us. I've heard John Hagee. I don't agree with a lot of the theology of John Hagee, but I've heard John Hagee take a passage of scripture and actually exegete it on Bible prophecy, and he got it right. There's several passages I've heard him teach on at great length in a sermon. And while I don't agree with some of his word of faith type prosperity gospel theology, prophetically, I've listened to some of his sermons on teaching Bible prophecy, following the text. I'm like, well, he's getting all that right. So to claim that these guys are all teaching theories is like they're crazy. Apocalyptic theories. Famous apocalypse theorists. This is already on page 20. If he's trying to win the vote of evangelicals, I'm not sure this is how you go about it. He admits on page 6, I chose to become Catholic for what I believe are good reasons. He claims he was born and raised in a family that attended, Baptist churches, evangelical churches, as you hear now. He's quite disgusted by people that were into Bible prophecy, the theories. But now he's flipped over to Catholicism. Well, I can see why, because he's basically, in my opinion, theologically studying his book now. This is a New Age Catholic. J.D. Vance is a New Age Catholic. We already heard he talks to the dead. He's married to a Hindu, so I'm not so sure there's a lot of difference between him and his wife. He apparently wants her to convert. I don't know why. The popes, many of them now have no problem with ecumenicalism, Hinduism, Islam, kissing the Quran, the whole 9 yards. Why bother? In fact, at the end of the book, he says we're all part of the same church. Apparently, he believes in some kind of universal church. Of course, he thinks Peter was the one that laid down the foundation of the church. I'm sorry, there's a difference between Petra and Petros. But he says on page 285, quote, as Christians, we are all together part of the same church. Those who suffered and those who prospered, those who voted for me and those who didn't, the living and the dead, my grandmother and my father, though they disliked each other, Charlie Kirk and Pope Francis, despite their different views, St. Augustine and Father Henry, me and my son, end quote. So let me get this right. The heretic Pope Francis, the communist Pope Francis, and Charlie Kirk, the self-described evangelical, they're all Christians. They're all part of the same church. How many of you believe that today, friends? Now, I believe in the church, ecclesia, called out ones. But to say that Pope Francis, who was a false teacher with a false gospel, was a, quote, Christian, and is a part of the same church as those of us who define church by ecclesia, called out ones who have placed their faith and trust in Christ alone, not by works, lest any man should boast. That's not the same church. Pope Francis is part of a false church. Now, to be fair to any Catholics listening, don't get too defensive, because we have a ton of false churches on the Protestant side as well. But this guy sounds pretty universalistic to me. We're all part of the same church. Now, the book is boring. I did a real service for you guys reading it, because it is boring. He could have really written this book in 2 chapters. But I guess you got to have something to sell, which apparently is not selling very well. Apparently it's not selling well, and I can see why. Now, he starts out describing himself as a young boy, young man, and the things that he found frustrating about church. And he's rather ridicules the evangelicals. But what I notice is at the end of the book, he never resolves any of those criticisms. He just leaves them in here. No wonder he and Tucker like each other. We'll be right back. Friends, this is Brannon Howse. For more than a year now, I've been teaching through the book of Revelation, and the response from you has been overwhelming. You've asked me again and again, when are you going to put this study in print? We want to mark it up. We want to share it with our families. Well, it's here. My brand new 2-volume commentary on the book of Revelation, verse by verse, chapter by chapter. This is not a watered down, allegorized replacement theology approach to Revelation. This is a literal, grammatical, historical study, the way the Lord intended his word to be read. And I connect the prophecy of Revelation to the headlines you're watching unfold right now, the rise of global government and the convergence of end-time events the Lord Jesus warned us about. Folks, we are living in serious days, and there has never been a more important time to understand what God has told us about what is coming. Get your 2-volume Revelation commentary today at worldviewstore.com. That's worldviewstore.com. All right. Welcome back. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. This is your vice president, folks. He's one heartbeat away from the presidency. And I would say there's a pretty good chance he will become president here in the next 2 years, because President Trump there's a very high probability he will not finish his term. I was listening to Doug Casey this morning. He is a guy, I don't know how old Doug's got to be. I'm guessing he's in his 70s. Doug's been around a long time. Casey Research, I think is what it's called. And he talks about the economy and inflation and all kinds of stuff. But I was listening to him this morning, as I listen to a lot of different people just to see what people are saying out there. And Doug Casey said he is just, I don't advise gambling and betting, folks. I don't do it, and I don't advise you do it. But he did say he placed a bet with a friend of his, and he has promised to pay his friend $10,000 if President Trump finishes his second term. He says he doesn't think that's going to happen, that he's going to lose the midterms horrifically. He's going to be impeached. He's going to either be removed from office or he'll resign like Richard Nixon. Well, let me tell you something. When you're doing some of the things he's doing, it's going to be hard for any person who believes in the rule of law, or at least just common sense, to defend some of this. The latest is the idea that we're going to have people, what is it, $100,000? $100,000, I think, is the fee. If you want to get his Truth Social post, what is it, a couple seconds before everybody else?
I don't know at the time exactly.
And, well, look that up for me if you would, please. It's millisecond. But you'll get it before everybody else. Now, why would you do that? I think why you do that is because you're going to have AI making a lot of trades for you. So people who get the information first can get in line, make orders, book trades really quick. Now, I heard Ed Dowd last night, who's a regular on our broadcast, say that's Banana Republic stuff there. He ought to know better than that. That's Banana Republic stuff. And that's just one example. So the Democrats are going to have plenty to work with, and he handed it to them.
Yeah, it's milliseconds.
Milliseconds, literal milliseconds, which tells you those milliseconds are being read by AI, not by humans. So AI are making the decisions for these people. They're AI agents. Oh, all right, let's keep reading through this painful book. Here we go, page 27. Just before I left Iraq, I attended a service at my sister's church. The sermon that Sunday focused on the end times and why every person present must be prepared for the second coming of Christ. I sat there in a silent rage. I looked around at the churchgoers, happy families and elderly couples and children, bored out of their minds. Who are these people? I thought. Did they know any narcotics addicts? Did they labor under the crushing weight of loss and grief and worry? Had they, like me, ever abandoned their families during their time of greatest need? I hated all of this, the complacency and the irreverent sermons about the rapture. Now, end quote. Now, some can say, but Brannon, that's his younger self. He's starting out the book here. He's already on page 28, and he's taken a lot of slaps at the evangelical Christians. Why anyone who believes as we believe, as Bible-believing Christians would have anything to do with this fella is beyond me. This guy has already showed you his absolute contempt, in my opinion, for your doctrine, your theology, your eschatology. And to those who say, well, he's just describing his feelings then as a younger man. You know what? This kind of antagonism continues in various ways throughout the book. He never resolves it. He never says, oh, by the way, I've come to appreciate many of the Christians who believe in an eschatology different than mine. I no longer feel rage at people who believe in the rapture or who study Bible prophecy. That's never resolved. He leaves it there. Irrelevant sermons about the rapture. He doesn't like people talking about the second coming of Christ. I sat there in rage. Isn't the Lord our hope, our blessed hope? Isn't that one of the signs of a believer, folks? In 2 John, is we long for the return of the Lord. But he was enraged by it. What spirit is over this man? Well, I think we kind of already know he's running around talking to the dead. Then he says in chapter 2, by the time I landed in Iraq in August of 2005, people at home had largely forgotten about Terry Schiavo. You guys remember Terry Schiavo? The young lady, we sure covered that story a lot. The young lady down in Florida who had a traumatic brain injury, and I won't get into what some people were accusing, I think it was her husband of. I won't get into all that. But somehow she had had a traumatic brain injury. She was able to follow a balloon around the room. Her eyes would follow the balloon. She would recognize loved ones when they would come in the room. There was plenty of evidence that she was very aware of what was happening. But I think it was her, again, fact check me in there, guys, because this has been a long time ago. I believe it was her husband that wanted to just basically euthanize her. And the governor got involved, Jeb Bush, and many others. And of course, we covered it extensively. Crosstalk, Jim Schneider, Vic Eliason, they all covered it extensively because it was a major issue here in this country. Because it showed that we were at a real serious tipping point in our nation when it came to a nation that would accept active euthanasia. I think it was a tipping point. I think it was consequential. I think it was a very, very serious issue. One that we're paying, there are dividends being paid on this today in a very negative manner. Do you not feel the same way, listening friend? Well, your vice president doesn't. Because here's what he says. But I hadn't forgotten about it, is what he's saying. Let me start from the beginning. Quote, by the time I had landed in Iraq in August 2005, people at home had largely forgotten about Terry Schiavo, but I hadn't. And I continued to stew on it. It's hard to say precisely what about the news coverage of the story so bothered me. It seemed like essentially a family dispute. I was sympathetic to the moral worldview of the people who wanted to save her life. But to my younger self, the grandstanding and media circus seemingly revealed a religious movement divorced from the day-to-day concerns of the faithful. I felt there was something a little off about obsessing over extraordinary circumstances when there was so much ordinary misery in the world, end quote. Really? Something off about obsessing over this? Well, I just explained how this is laying down court record. Now, this guy, I think, went to law school, didn't he? Does he not understand the case law theory? Christopher Columbus Langdow? Or we should be going with the original intent, but sadly we go with moral relativism applied to the law, legal positivism, case law theory. So when courts were ruling as they were on this was laying down case law. I don't think anyone was obsessing over something that was anything but very serious. Now, he goes on like this is an issue where people should have been, particularly in the Christian world, more concerned about the plight of the drug users and the homeless and the struggling, working class. You know what, JD? We can chew and walk at the same time. It's not either or, buddy boy. But you notice this flippant attitude. You say, well, again, he's describing this as his younger self. Yeah, but he never resolves any of this at the end of the book. I kept looking for him to say, now I understand. Now as a parent, as a husband, now I understand these issues. No, he leaves these insults hanging there. He goes on to say, we talked about the theory of evolution and how I'd been an advocate for young earth creationism as a teenager before realizing the superiority of Darwinian theory. Well, there you go. I mean, this guy is only into the second chapter. He is not winning any evangelical voters. Well, maybe he is, though, if you redefine the word evangelical today. Page 49. I recalled the countless times I'd heard people misstate or ignore Christian doctrines, How could something be the word of God if its followers couldn't even understand it? Was God really that terrible a communicator? I was so unrooted. I had no pastor that I could turn to. My best option was Sam Luke, the Pentecostal preacher from Dad's church back home. But he had moved on from that church, and I was too far away to stay in close touch. Well, what we find out later is he really is questioning, and he's really searching, and there's nothing wrong with that. But he decides he's going to become a Catholic. Let me get to the next spot where I've marked it up. See what we get here. Because we're going to learn a lot about this guy who's probably going to become your president when Trump leaves office or is impeached or removed. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's very possible. I don't think he can win a normal election. I just don't think he's a very likable guy. Page 93. He talks about meeting Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, one of the Silicon Valley tech elite. Quote, but Thiel impacted me in another way, possibly the smartest person I'd ever met. He identified very openly as a Christian. He defied the simple social template I had constructed, that dumb people were religious and smart people were atheists. I began to wonder where his faith came from, which led me to Rene Girard. End quote. Now, what is, you say, well, Brannon, that's JD talking about what Peter Thiel likes. Well, let's see. What does he say about Girard himself? He said, quote, Girard's thought catalog is rich enough that my summary won't do it justice. His theory of medic rivalry, that we tend to compete over things other people want, spoke directly to some of the competitive pressures I had experienced at Yale. I wanted a Supreme Court clerkship because that's what other people wanted. I wanted a job at a good law firm because that's what other people wanted. Girard gave me a vocabulary to describe the pressures I felt, but hadn't been able to articulate. But it was his related theory of the scapegoat and what it revealed about Christianity that made me think about the Christian faith in a new light. One of Girard's central insights is that human civilizations are often, or perhaps always, founded on a scapegoat myth, an act of violence committed against someone who is wrong, the broader community, retold as a sort of origin story. Importantly, this scapegoat is innocent of what they're accused of, and he goes on from there. Would you like to know more about, by the way, Rene Girard, his worldview that your vice president finds to be so thought and a thought catalog that's rich? I'll tell you more about his worldview. You say, why does this matter? Because this guy is being used by the tech bros. He'd like to be president, and I think he's got a very dangerous worldview.
Consumers often ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your foundational core product for a whole range of health and wellness issues. Let me give you a few examples. If you're a little bit older and you have some joint health issues, some problems with mobility and discomfort, the elixir is going to be your best friend. If you have some skin health issues, wrinkles, hydration, aging, all of those elements are going to be benefited from the elixir, including age spots. Now, if you're in a younger demographic, maybe visual health is where you need some assistance. Eye fatigue, dry eyes, all of those are going to be benefited by the elixir. It's a core product because it benefits so many.
All right, welcome back. Glad you are with us. Our website, worldviewradio.com, worldviewradio.com. So before I go to Carl Tykreb, I'm going to bring Carl in by phone. Before I go to Carl Tykreb, because I think J.D. Vance is a creation of the tech bros, in my opinion. Peter Thiel. Isn't Peter Thiel the homosexual? So Peter Thiel's the homosexual, but he's the open Christian. He's the one that runs around doing a 4-part series on the Antichrist. But they all love Rene Girard. And if you go look up Rene Girard, he believes many weird things, but he basically reinterprets the Bible through his own worldview. He reinterprets original sin. I mean, this guy, Rene Girard, he's a Catholic. He's more in the mystical realm. In fact, I asked Worldviewpedia, your biblical worldview research assistant, said, tell me about Rene Girard and our own. Well, we've talked about him before, so it came up. See, this is a great thing about Worldviewpedia, available at worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. Based on the available information from Brannon Howse's Revelation Volume 1 book, here's what we share, what he shares about Rene Girard. He was a French, Volume 2, sorry. He was a French Catholic philosopher who lived from 1923 to 2015. He's known for developing what is called mimetic theory. Or is it mimetic theory? M-I-M-E-T-I-C. Mimetic theory, a philosophical framework that has gained attention in certain intellectual and religious circles. Why is he relevant today, according to Brannon Howse's teachings? Girard's philosophy has become notable in the context of tech sector religious revival. Tech sector religious revival in Silicon Valley. Specifically, his teachings have been used as the basis for Bible studies hosted by Trey Stevens, co-founder of a defense tech company and partner at Founders Fund, co-founder Peter Thiel. Brannon warns that this represents a reshaped or neo-Christianity, one that is Christianity in name only and not based on Christ. Well, that's right. There's more I could say about this guy. But I want to bring in, before I keep reading from this, I want to bring in Carl Tykrib. Carl, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, thank you so much, Brannon.
I don't know how much of you heard, because I know you were coming through customs from Canada into America. You're just now joining us, right?
Right, correct. It took a little bit longer to get through customs this time than I expected, but that's how the game gets played on occasion.
All right. I want to read this to you. I've been going through, in his book, he's talking about his younger self. He mocks the rapture. He's angry that people are sitting there hearing irrelevant sermons about the second coming. And he calls people like Tim LaHaye apocalypse theorists and whatnot. He never resolves these insults that he has as a young man, as an older man. And I don't think he will, because he's now jumped into Catholicism, and particularly with Peter Thiel and with Rene Girard, which is a neo-mystical Christianity. But I think what I want to read, again, audience bear out, because this will be the first time Carl's heard this. I think it's going to blow his mind. Because at the 12th chapter mark, page 262, this is what the vice president writes, quote, "When I first made some money, I reached out to an 80-year-old cousin to buy the family cemetery in eastern Kentucky. I spoke about this cemetery, probably about a half an acre, in my acceptance speech at the 2024 Republican National Convention. Even as vice president, I tried to visit at least once a year. It's a beautiful part of the country, my favorite part in many ways, and I still have relatives there whom I love to see." Now, I'm going to skip down a couple paragraphs. "I talked to my grandparents and my great-grandparents like patron saints of the episodes and emotions we all experience in the course of life. I talk to Mamaw when I need strength or focus, to Papa when I need wisdom. I talk to Mamaw's mother, Mamaw Blanton, when I need kindness or empathy, and to her father, Papa Blaine, whom I never met, when I need toughness. I bought the cemetery for selfish reasons. I want to preserve this outdoor temple of the dead for my family and the sake of those buried. I bought it for selfish reasons too. For the moment of quiet reflection, I find only in this place, unique in all the world, I bought it so when I'm buried, my children have a place to visit and speak to their ancestors," end quote. Carl, what do you call that?
What? That's okay. Well, I'm flabbergasted. My goodness, this is J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States. This is spiritism. This is flat out spiritism. Do the dead answer him? Golly, this kind of merges right into the realm of ancestor worship. That's He wrote that?
Yeah, it's
That's
on.
wild, Brannon. That's wild.
And can I ask you why I'm not hearing other Christian broadcasters talk about this? I'm not aware of any other Christian broadcaster out there talking about this. Can you, Logan? Have you heard it? I went searching to see if I could find another Christian broadcaster. Couldn't find one.
Brannon, that is over the top. My goodness. Yeah, I'm kind of speechless. I wish I could, give you some insights, except for the fact that it's obvious. This is spiritism. That's the realm that he's entered. This is really bizarre stuff.
Do you know who Rene Girard is?
I've heard the name. Offhand, I don't know offhand much, but I have heard the name.
But you just heard me describe what he believes, and that Peter Thiel introduced him to him, and he thinks his Rene Girard stuff is just rich. This is who.
Wow.
This is who's building this neo-Christianity French Catholic philosopher. On page 152, Vance writes, there was also a prayer to Archangel Michael to intervene on our behalf and defeat evil by the power of God. I really like that one. It felt medieval, despite being written in the 19th century, and it felt mystical. End quote. So this dude likes to pray to angels, which the Bible says that's Gnosticism, have nothing to do with it. Apparently he likes to talk to the dead. Cuckoo. But no problems, folks. He's only one heartbeat away from the presidency. Cuckoo.
My goodness. That is quite the statement for him to make on both accounts. Praying to angels and talking to the dead. I'm curious. As you're reading through his book, Brannon, does he talk about how the dead answer him?
I would like to interview him. I would like to interview him, but I don't think he has the courage to come on our program. Think about that. The vice president of the United States is more than likely afraid to come on a live broadcast like this because he doesn't want to answer the questions I can pretty much tell you that I'm going to ask him. Because this is not in the Bible, and he wouldn't know what to say. There's amazing the number of people that are afraid to come on this broadcast. They're afraid. Well, it's the truth. It's not me. They're afraid of the questions and the truth. Now, it gets worse because he goes on to talk about the Pope. Pope Leo the 13th. Okay, not to be confused with the dude that's in there now. And Pope Leo, as he describes, is a critic of both capitalism and communism. He's a critic of both.
So he's third way. He's communitarian.
Exactly right. He's communitarian. And Vance loves it. And he says the Pope also lays out a vision of society where the state protects the vulnerable, guarantees a just wage for laborers, and ensures that working people have sufficient rest from labor, not for vigorous indulgence, but so they can focus on higher matters such as their religious and family obligations.
So it's placed within the context of this will free us to do good deeds, to be good people, to be good citizens, and the state will look after us and free us of our labors.
Yep.
No, thank you.
Hey, and this came by, apparently this guy...
dangerous.
It is dangerous. And apparently this guy came to us by way of Don Jr. and Tucker Carlson. Now, look, folks, I've never said this publicly, but I'm going to go. Don Jr. might be a nice guy, but this dude is not this guy is, I think, in my opinion, a few fries short of a Happy Meal. He's not the brightest guy in the family, right? I don't think Don Jr., in my opinion, is the brightest guy in the family. And if that's really truly who was recommending J.D. Vance to President Trump, why would you take advice from Don Jr.? And then Tucker Carlson. Now, this is starting to tell us a lot, right? But he goes on to describe this. 155 of the book, page 155. People are fundamentally social. So they're mediating institutions, unions, churches, ought to be prioritized. This is why the Catholic Church educates millions of American children every year, and why the church's participation in FDR's New Deal coalition was critical to building the modern middle-class economy of the post-war years, end quote. Hello, I'm sorry. FDR was a socialist. He confiscated everybody's gold, and then he marked it back up and was going to throw you in prison if you had it. This dude kept the Depression going longer. And this vice president thinks that it's FDR who rebuilt the middle class? Are you kidding? The Depression lasted longer because of FDR's interventionism. Carl?
Well, and FDR is the concept of the New Deal intellectually, philosophically, ended up coming, first of all, through Stuart Chase, an American technocrat who actually he writes in his book The New Deal, which I believe came out in 31 or 32, that he closes the book by saying, "Why is it that the Russians have all the fun of remaking a society?" And he applauds both the Russians and he applauds the German National Socialists. The idea that we need to now collectivize, and in fact, we have to collectivize now in a new American way. And he was, in many respects, his book, The New Deal, it was very fundamental to the philosophy behind FDR's New Deal as well. So, I mean, what? You're talking about a form of collectivism. You bring the state in to basically set up the parameters, the guidelines of how you're now supposed to live. No, thank you.
He is a technocrat, I think. He's into technocracy, J.D. Vance. He's a creature of Peter Thiel. And he's clearly a communitarian, big government, big business, third way, as you've already referenced. And that Henry Lamb, the late Henry Lamb. Do you remember Henry Lamb?
You know, I remember him. I'm still friends with his wife on social media. Henry, I miss Henry. In fact, I was just reading through an article he'd written a number of years ago. Mr. Lamb was spot on. He was a brilliant thinker, and he knew the ins and outs of globalism and all the other associated isms very, very well. We need more Henry Lambs.
And he described this communitarianism as communism light. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's what J.D. Vance is. He goes on to say, Pope Leo explains our economic creatures who we are, let me get that right. Pope Leo explains are economic creatures who work to earn a living, which means that their employers have a duty to pay a wage sufficient for them to live a good life with family and children well cared for. Wait a minute. You come back, you're going to hear that the vice president isn't for a free market system. I'll explain. Don't go away.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon Howse.
All right, welcome back. I'm just scratching the surface. I'm going to have to continue this tonight on Brannon Howse Live. I'm see if I can get Patrick Wood on, maybe get on Courtney Turner. Maybe we'll bring Carl back in if he's available. I want to get the quote right again for transcription. On page 155, J.D. Vance writes, quote, people, Leo explains, talking about Pope Leo. This would be Pope Leo the 13th, not to be confused with the current Pope. People, Leo explains, are economic creatures who work to earn a living, which means that their employers have a duty to pay a wage sufficient for them to live a good life. with family and children well cared for, end quote. Then he goes on to say, churches will struggle to attract working class people if those people are forced to work on Sundays, end quote. And he goes on to talk about why he's in favor of laws that, people don't have to work on certain days like Thanksgiving because they need to be with family. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Are we going to start taking off every holiday for the Muslims and the Hindus and everybody else too? This guy also goes into why it's absolutely imperative that employers have pay for maternity leave. Now, I don't want to upset people just for the sake of upsetting people, but I'm a free market guy. If you want to have a child, have a child. But the employer should not bear the brunt of having to pay you while you go on maternity leave. I talked to a guy the other day who was going to do some business printing for us, and I was delayed in getting the bid over and over and over. And when I asked his coworker what's going on, he's on maternity leave. I said, he had a baby, did he? No, but he's on maternity leave. I'm like, can you imagine John Wayne taking maternity? Well, I'd love to be on the set, Pilgrim, but I'm on maternity leave. Really? I mean, this is the feminization of the American male. I've had 3 kids. My wife did. We did. She had them, though. Yeah. And I never went on, quote, maternity leave. I kept working. I maybe was at home helping, but I was working. And to think that some employer should have to pay me, whereas I could just take my vacation or extra time, this is baloney. The government forcing this on people. He's big on the unions. He's big on forcing businesses to have to close down and win. And for what? This dude is dangerous. And Carl, I want you to respond to this clip. Listen to this, please.
A lot of conservatives have said we should deconstruct the administrative state. We should basically eliminate the administrative state. And I'm sympathetic to that project, but another option is that we should just seize the administrative state for our own purposes.
Why don't we seize the assets of the Ford Foundation?
Harvard University endowment pays a 0% tax rate. Maybe it's time to tax that endowment, seize the endowment, actually penalize these endowments for being on the wrong side of some of these cultural war issues. But the basic idea here is the left sees an entity that's aligned with the right, the left punishes it. The right sees an entity that is aligned with the left. We run away. We refuse to do anything. That is what we have to stop. We have to be willing to actually fight these companies with fire.
I think the basic idea is that we have to seize the institutions and make them actually work for our people.
I tend to think that we should seize the institutions of the left and turn them against the left, right?
Oh, boy. Let me finish it.
We need like a de-Bathification program, but like a de-wokification program in the United States, right?
Yeah. I wonder how many empty-headed, moronic, MAGA Kool-Aid drinking morons cheered at that. Oh, yeah, like a bunch of seals waiting for a fish to be thrown at them. Come on. If they can do it to the left, they can do it to the right. If we don't like what you teach, you're on the wrong side of the culture war. We're going to take your stuff. That's called theft, Mr. Eyeliner. That's theft.
You know, what strikes me with this, Brannon, is this is not right wing. This is a type of collectivism. This is collective. Now, so my definition of right and left, I have a fairly simple definition that anything on the left is maximum government, minimum personal responsibility. The right being minimum government, maximum personal responsibility. So however you want to flavor what he was just talking about, he is describing larger government. He is describing the role of government to be intervening in the private affairs of institutions and organizations and people as well, and then to force it to conform to a certain image. I'm sorry, that is a form of, that's leftism, that's collectivism, that's big government. That's not the free market. That's not allowing I'm almost speechless on this one, Brannon. That's wild.
Yeah, well, he's also into Mother Nature. Now I can argue either side of this debate. He's talking about biology and whatnot. But the creation story tells us that we are both animal and divine on purpose. A purpose to be fair.
Oh, my word.
We can't fully understand. Wow. Roof, roof. I'm sorry. That was the animal coming out in me. What is wrong with this guy? Okay? He says, quote, now I can argue either side of this debate, whether these parts of us called to be beauty accidental to Mother Nature and evolution, or were they part of some cosmic design? Both seem plausible. But Chesterton's Catholic view felt truer to me. This guy is, I always thought he was weird, but he's, what?
That's worldview schizophrenia.
Sure
They're not sure where you land. It's all over the map. Who are you? What do you believe? Oh, cosmic evolution on one hand, and maybe intelligent design on the other. Who knows? Oh, my goodness.
He's not complimentary of the Bible, page 160. Quote, I was also drawn to the hierarchy and sense of authority in Catholicism. The Christian tradition was so rich, the Bible so big and difficult to master, that I began to see the structure of Catholicism as a benefit, not a burden, end quote. Really? The Bible's so big and difficult. Well, maybe that's because you're so busy talking to the dead and you're so busy not having the Holy Spirit that it's a dead book to you. You don't have the eyes to see it, Mr. Vance. But, okay, I can't understand it. So you know what? I'll just take a pass and go to the Catholic Church. Just tell me what to believe. And by the way, with his version of the Catholic Church, which is basically New Age Catholicism, then he can be married to his Hindu wife and they can all talk to the dead. Carl?
Yeah, well, you brought me on the program to in a sense, you dropped a bomb in my lap, and because I've not read the book, and I'm going, my goodness, you've got a completely different set of circumstances in the White House than what people think. This is, in his own words, he is definitely not aligned with biblical Christianity, and I would argue he's probably not aligned in the true conservative.
Forcingchange.org. Forcingchange.org. Take care.
This has been.
All right, Carl's right back with us. Carl, I had to let the VCY audience go real quick. Oh, he's on the VCY side too. Oh, all right. All right. Here, this is page 209. You ready for this, guys? Huh? Oh, you have more clips as well? Okay, I'll save the rest of this for tonight. I got a lot more tonight, boys and girls. Let's go. What else you got there, Logan? The reserve. Oh, let's go to that one, please. Oh, you want me to play it? Right below me. All right, here we go. I'll play it. Listen to this.
That's exactly right. And by the way, I'm this is like maybe super heterodox. I am not sure that I think the reserve currency is actually good for the United States of America. I think there is a good argument that reserve currency status is akin to coal in Appalachia. It's a resource curse, right? It allows your consumers to consume very cheaply, right? That's been the story of the American economy for the last 15 or so years. Even before that, is we can just borrow basically in an unlimited way because we have the reserve currency. That's exactly right. And by the way, I'm this is like maybe super heterodox.
All right, so that's the clip. I'm about to play it twice. Wow, he's not for the reserve currency, huh? I want to get into one thing he said about it. Listen to what he said there.
I am not sure that I think the reserve currency is actually good for the United States of America. I think there is a good argument that reserve currency status is akin to coal in Appalachia. It's a resource curse, right? It allows your consumers to consume very cheaply, right? That's been the story of the American economy for the last 15 or so years.
Consume cheaply. How is that? How are we consuming cheaply with the world reserve currency of the dollar? How is that helping us consume cheaply? To the contrary, unless I'm misunderstanding him, the dollar has been printed and printed and printed, and it's inflation, which is why gold's back up today, headed toward $4,500 an ounce, and it's going to be at $5,000 easily before the year's over, I believe. People aren't consuming cheaply. We have a fiat currency. Now, what is he wanting to replace it with is the big question. Another one you just added. All right, here, let's listen to this rocket scientist.
I'm wondering when I hear about the history, when I think about and read about the history of Appalachia and the resource curse,
I'm struck by some of the by the idea that you could make a similar argument about the reserve currency status of the United States dollar. Americans have enjoyed one of the greatest privileges of the international economy for the last nearly 8 decades, a strong dollar that acts, of course, as the world's reserve currency. You know that better than I do. Now, this has obviously been great for American purchasing power. We enjoy cheaper imports. Americans, when they travel abroad, benefit from lower costs. But it does come at a cost to American producers. I think in some ways you can argue that the reserve currency status is a massive subsidy to American consumers, but a massive tax on American producers. Now, I know the strong dollar is sort of a sacred cow of the Washington consensus, but when I survey the American economy and I see our mass consumption of mostly useless imports on the one hand and our hollowed out industrial base on the other hand, I wonder if the reserve currency status also has some downsides and not just some upsides as well.
Okay, what is he wanting to replace it with, though, at this point? We're in pretty thick at this point, folks. So what is he wanting to do? Why is he so bothered by the amount of consumption? Why does that bother him? I don't know. This guy, I would love to interview him, but he would not have the guts to sit in an interview with us. I can promise you that. We've already tried once and we weren't allowed. Now I know more about the guy. Do we have any more from this character? Oh, and I got more from the book. Well, let me just hold it right there, folks. By the way, this is going to be turned into an article. Can we take the transcript and get it to me so I can take the transcript of this broadcast and start whittling it down and turn it into into an article about the book, a book review? And then we'll take what I do tonight about it as well. I don't know anyone else has done a program like this. Has anyone else done a program that you can find online or YouTube or anywhere where someone's done a book review of this book?
I'm sure the people have done a book review, but I looked up J.D. Vance, Talking to the Dead. I can't find anyone talking about it.
But I'd love to see if anyone else is going through this book and pulling out paragraphs and explaining to you what this guy's real worldview is. Boy, President Trump picked a ding-a-ling. I mean, what do you think, Logan?
Yeah, I know. I'm finding more.
This is when you the more you know about J.D. Vance, the more it's like maybe that's why President Trump picked him. Because it makes Trump look like a rocket scientist, but also, do you really want this guy to be vice president, be president? Do you really want him to be president? It's kind of like picking Dan Quayle. Let's see here. He's really hung up on the Terry Schiavo thing. He keeps going back to that. But I want to save all the rest of this for tonight. Well, yeah, he wants the government to step in and pass laws that force companies to shut down on Thanksgiving and holidays. Well, who's going to pick those holidays, number one? And number two, what are you going to do with all the other people? Doctors, police officers? This is where you let the free market handle it. The free market. More on the worldview of J.D. Vance tonight. All right? There you go. Till next time, take care. Logan, we got...
You just unmute.
Tonight on the Worldview Report, Iran attacks 2 more Abu Dhabi National Oil Company tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. In transit, it grinds to near 0 visible crossings on Friday morning. The Jerusalem Post publishes an exclusive revealing that both IDF and Mossad officials, they have been stunned by the speed of Iran's ballistic missile rebuild 4 months after the main war ended. And IDF surveillance soldiers are serving in 2 separate sectors of Gaza, and they go public on Channel 12, saying Hamas operatives are approaching the yellow line every day. And the Washington Post draws an exclusive revealing that the United States has lost at least 45 MQ-9 Reaper drones, 1/4 of its entire fleet during the Iran war, costing taxpayers more than $1.3 billion. Texas parents and officials, they are demanding answers after more than 30 public school students from Humboldt School District were bused to a Houston Islamic center during the school day. And in tonight's commentary, I'll line up 4 of the most credible voices in financial, markets. Jim Rickards, Martin Armstrong, Michelle McCory, and Edward Dowd. And I will document the specific warnings each is making about what's coming with the Great Reset and the new financial system. All that and more as the Worldview Report begins right now.
This is Worldview Report with host Brannon Howse. Whether it is news from the nation's capital or your state capital, from the classroom to the boardroom, from national security to national and local news that impacts you and your family, Worldview Report is your trusted source for vital and uncensored news. And now, here is Brannon Howse.
Good evening and welcome to the Worldview Report. I'm Brannon Howse. We begin tonight with the latest from the Strait of Hormuz, as reported by Reuters and others. And we're dealing with, what is really going on. And the reality is this. The traffic transiting through the Strait of Hormuz appears to have come to a complete standstill. That was Friday, after 2 more ships were attacked. And the United States told reporters it could maintain its naval blockade of Iran indefinitely. The 2 vessels, they belong to the state-owned Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. They were attacked on Thursday evening while transiting the strait. The UAE government, they blamed Iran. Iran made no immediate comment. 9 vessels passed through the waterway on Thursday. That's up slightly from 5 on Wednesday, but far below even the depressed August average of 12. There were no visible crossings at all early Friday on the tracking data. Some vessels may pass through undetected with transponders off, but the figures are nowhere near the more than 30 ships that daily transited the strait before the war began back in February. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, he told reporters that the U.S. military has the capability to maintain a naval presence in the region in order to enforce its retaliatory blockade of Iran indefinitely, and that the U.S. is preparing new economic measures against Iran in the coming week. A senior Iranian source told Reuters on Wednesday that there had been no progress in the talks to build on the June Memorandum of Understanding. Risk intelligence analysts say plainly that Iran's ability to restrict shipping through the strait is indeed its main source of leverage in the negotiations, and that Tehran has no strategic reason to give it up until Washington gives, something valuable in return. Our next story comes from the Jerusalem Post, and it is an exclusive by military correspondent Yana Jeremy Bob, and it contains one of the most alarming intelligence assessments published about the Iran war's outcome. Both IDF and Mossad officials, they have been stunned by the speed of Iran's military recovery following the 2026 war. That's what the Jerusalem Post has learned. Shock. It is not confined to 1 or 2 areas. It spans many areas. And most critically, it includes the ballistic missile threat that the joint U.S.-Israel campaign was specifically designed to eliminate. The history of this failure, it is documented across 3 rounds. That's after Israel struck 20 Iranian missile targets in October of 2024. Estimated, it had set back Iran's missile production by a year or more. Iran fully recovered by early 2025. After striking around 100 targets in June of 2025, the IDF said it had finally found the formula to set back production by multiple years. Iran's estimated 1,300 missiles became 2,500 by February of 2026. After the full-scale 2026 war, in which the U.S. and Israel collectively attacked Iran roughly 30,000 times and struck over 2,600 military and industrial targets, IDF officials declared every large and small part of the Iranian military industry had been shattered to pieces. Now, 4 months after the main war ended, the Jerusalem Post understands that top Israeli defense officials are admitting Iran has found creative ways to focus on rebuilding the missile threat, even while massive parts of the country remain in ruin. If Iran returns to producing 100 to 300 missiles per month, well, its arsenal could return to mid-2025 levels by early to mid-2027, and thus could become a prohibitive existential threat again as early as 2028. The IDF responded cautiously, confirming it is closely monitoring Iranian rehabilitation efforts, while declining to provide specific assessments that could expose sources and methods. Our next story comes from World Israel News, and it's confirmed by Israel National News along with many other outlets. And it carries a warning that anyone who remembers October 7th needs to take seriously. IDF surveillance soldiers deployed in 2 separate sectors of the Gaza Strip, well, they're warning through Channel 12 that Hamas operatives have been approaching the yellow line, the boundary dividing IDF-controlled Gaza from Hamas-controlled Gaza. This is happening on a daily basis. The soldiers say the operatives are deliberately probing Israel's rules of engagement and testing how close they can get without triggering a response. Critically, the soldiers say that in many cases, they identify the threat in real time, cannot get authorization to act because the approval process requires passing through multiple levels of command. One lookout soldier speaking publicly, despite knowing it could result in disciplinary action, said this directly to Channel 12. I feel like October 6th. The only difference is that we see it on the yellow line and not on the fence. Another lookout added, it's literally like before October 7th. The warnings, they echo the exact pattern that was documented before the October 7th massacre itself, when female surveillance soldiers sent repeated urgent alerts about unusual Hamas activity and armed training exercises, and yet they were systematically ignored. 15 lookout soldiers were killed in the Hamas attack on the Natal Oz observation base. 7 others were abducted. Israel Hayom reports that the IDF is preparing a daily report of all Hamas violations under Trump's Gaza deal, and they're sending it directly to Washington, D.C., documenting 14 incidents in a single 24-hour period, including suspects crossing the yellow line and transferring weapons. Hamas has not stopped its activities for a moment since the deal was announced. We'll be right back after this short break. Friends, this is Brannon Howse. For more than a year now, I've been teaching through the book of Revelation, and the response from you has been overwhelming. You've asked me again and again, when are you going to put this study in print? We want to mark it up. We want to share it with our families. Well, it's here. My brand new 2-volume commentary on the book of Revelation, verse by verse, chapter by chapter. This is not a watered-down, allegorized replacement theology approach to Revelation. This is a literal, grammatical, historical study, the way the Lord intended his word to be read. And I connect the prophecy of Revelation to the headlines you're watching unfold right now, the rise of global government and the convergence of end-time events the Lord Jesus warned us about. Folks, we are living in serious days, and there has never been a more important time to understand what God has told us about what is coming. Get your 2-volume Revelation commentary today at worldviewstore.com. That's worldviewstore.com.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. WorldviewTube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the WorldviewTube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the WorldviewTube app icon. Select the tab And here, you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
Welcome back from the break. Thanks for being with us tonight and every night, and for remembering we are brought to you by you. We are a listener-supported network, so thank you for your support at worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. You also find our mailing address there. If you prefer to support us through the mail, please help us continue to push out programming all over the world free of charge through our foundation. Again, don't forget about the opportunity to be involved in what we call legacy giving. Please consider going to Worldview Foundation and reading about that and how you can include the foundation in your estate planning. We have about 15 plus families that have done that. Thank you to all of you. And we need more. So if you want to leave a biblical worldview legacy, please consider going to worldviewfoundation.com. And our national conference is coming up Friday night, October 23rd, Saturday, October 24th, brought to you by our foundation. And we're making it for the first time in 22 years absolutely free. But you must have a ticket. Over 800 seats are now spoken for. You can secure a seat by going to worldviewtube.com/events, worldviewtube.com/events. So thank you for doing that. October 23rd and 24th. That's a Friday night and Saturday. Worldviewstore.com is where you can find out about ordering my Revelation commentary set, 3-volume set. You can order. That'll be out this fall. So if you're going to be guaranteed having a copy by this fall, as well as giving it for Christmas as a Christmas gift, then I would urge you to do a pre-order because they get obviously the priority. And that way we know how many units to print. Worldviewstore.com is the URL for that. Worldviewstore.com. Thank you. Our next story comes from World Israel News, and it's drawing on a Washington Post exclusive reported by 3 U.S. officials that are familiar with the Pentagon data. And it adds yet another dimension to the military cost of the Iran war that has not been publicly disclosed until now. The U.S. military has lost at least 45 MQ-9 Reaper drones during the war with Iran, eliminating roughly 25% of its entire Reaper fleet. Before the war began, the U.S. operated approximately 185 Reapers, 165 in the Air Force and 20 in the Marine Corps. That number has fallen to roughly 135. And that's at a cost of between $30 million and $50 million per aircraft, depending on sensors and weapons. Not all 45 drones were shot down by enemy fire. A fourth official told the Post that in a number of cases, aircraft, they lost communication with their operators and then they crashed. The MQ-9, it has been described by defense officials as a relatively easy target for Iran and its proxies because it flies slow and at low altitudes, thus making it vulnerable to the same anti-drone systems Iran has been deploying throughout the conflict. The Reaper losses compound an already alarming picture of U.S. military depletion. We have reported on this program that the U.S. has used virtually all of its ATACMS and PRSM long-range precision missiles. They burned through less than half of its Tomahawk cruise missile supply, depleted approximately 65% of its Patriot interceptors. The Iran war is now affecting every major category of American conventional military power simultaneously. Pentagon is gradually phasing out the MQ-9 Raptor. They plan to replace it with cheaper swarm-capable strike drones. But that transition will take years. Our next story comes from Modernity News. It's written by Steve Watson. And it's the kind of story that could only generate the outrage it has because it's happening in the state of Texas, not in a blue state that's also a sanctuary city. More than 30 high school students from the Humboldt Independent School District, they were loaded onto school buses during a school day. And then they were transported to the Centro Islamico. It's operated by Islamic Spanish in the Houston area. It's a mosque, folks. And it's for what organizers build as an immersive experience of Islam. The visit included a full tour, halal food. They had halal food trucks for lunch. They had direct observation of the midday Islamic prayer and a formal presentation. Students were provided scarves. Representative from CARE Houston, that's the Council on American Islamic Relations, they spoke to the students, according to reports, about their rights as Muslims and as Muslim students and as so-called allies. The Islamic Center's own promotional video, I guess, was shot. It was published to mark the visit. And apparently it showed the school bus pulling up and teens, well, filing inside. In fact, a center representative celebrated on camera. It's always exciting to have the opportunity to speak to the general community about Islam. That's what he boasted about. And that the students, he says, left changed. Well, the social media reaction, it was swift and angry. One commentator asked pointedly, they've never bused students to temples or churches. They said we must keep religion out of school. What's going on? Well, that story, it connects to a larger pattern that's unfolding in Texas. McKinney City Council, they voted the other night 7-0 to approve a major new Islamic center complex. An Iranian Christian refugee who fled Sharia law or Islamic law stood up at that meeting and warned. The individual said, I'm a Sharia law survivor from Iran, and I'm here to tell you, this is a dangerous ideology you're allowing in the country. Congressman Keith South, he's publicly documented that Sharia adherent Muslims, they have, well, Muslim-only enclaves that are operating right there in East Plano, Texas, and in Irving, Texas. Governor Abbott, he's already moved to shut down an unauthorized Texas American Muslim University, and he supposedly blocked a Muslim-only public water park event over state funding concerns. Watson's conclusion is pointed. Texas has long defended its culture and Christian heritage. But when school buses roll up to mosques while churches remain off limits, when you have parallel structures and they keep expanding under a banner of religious liberty that is not equal, there's no reciprocity. That pattern is no longer subtle. He's warning that Texans will live to regret this. Well, now it is time for our nightly Worldview Report commentary. I want to do something different tonight. Over the last several days, I've gone through 4 long interviews with 4 financial analysts. Jim Rickards with Julia LaRoche, Martin Armstrong, who was interviewed by Michelle McCory, and then my friend Catherine Austin Fitz. She was also interviewed by Michelle McCory. And then Edward Dowd. Now, these 4 individuals, they do not agree with each other on everything. They have different backgrounds, different politics, perhaps, and they definitely have different models, and that's okay. We want a variety of opinions and analysis. 2 of them flatly contradict each other on where all this ends. But I want to be honest with you about all of this up front, because I'm not here to sell you on one financial guru over another. I think you should be listening to all these people. But something struck me as I went through all 4 of these presentations by these 4 individuals. And I had our team verify every single claim against the public record before I even brought this to you tonight. So here it is. Now, one of these individuals said the system is about to run out of money. Every one of them said something about how money moves and how it's being rebuilt, the whole system, right underneath us right now. That's a different warning. And I would argue it is a more serious warning. Let me show you what I mean. Here's the first thing. On the 31st of July, the United States Treasury and Japan's Ministry of Finance, they conducted what is known as a joint operation in the currency markets. And that has been confirmed. Japan's finance ministry announced it, in fact, on the 3rd of August. And then Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he confirmed it himself. And it was the first time that the United States and Japan bought yen together since 1998. Now, here's the part I want you to hold on to. The United States did not use dollars. It sold euros to buy yen. And here's the second part. Japan is the largest foreign holder of the United States government debt. Roughly $1.14 trillion in Treasury securities as of the end of May. You see, Japan needed dollars to defend its own currency. And the ordinary way to get them is to, well, sell some of those treasury. But if Japan sells that much American debt into the market, the price of that debt falls and interest rates would rise. And every American with a mortgage, of course, would feel it, unless they're in a locked-in mortgage. So instead, what Washington did is they pointed Japan to a lending window at the Federal Reserve, where Japan could borrow dollars against those treasuries without ever selling them. Oxford Economics told CNBC that avoiding exactly that outcome was, and I quote here, possibly one of the key reasons the United States joined in. They called it a self-preservation element. Now listen to what that is. A foreign government needed cash. Rather than let it sell what it owns, our government instead lent it the money against what it owes and then bought its currency using somebody else's currency. You don't need a theory about the end of the dollar to understand what really is being told here. It tells you the deepest financial market on this earth cannot handle one large seller without somebody stepping in to prevent it. Here's the second thing. And let me tell you the number underneath all of it. The national debt of the United States, it crossed $39.24 trillion on the 9th of June. That's this year, 2026. And we're now paying roughly $1 trillion a year just in interest, not principal, interest. About $88 billion every month. That interest bill, well, it now exceeds what we spend on national defense. In fact, the Congressional Budget Office projects it will pass Medicare by 2028, pass all discretionary spending by 2038, and become the single largest item in the entire federal budget by 2048. Interest on the debt. Folks, the third thing, and it comes to us with help from Edward Dowd, because he made a call back in January of this year. And he said the first place stress would show up is in something that he called private credit. Remember, we did a whole program and I did a commentary on the private credit time bomb. This is lending that's done outside of banks. And he was right. And the record is very specific. According to numerous news reports, the Cliffwater Corporate Lending Fund is one of the largest of these vehicles that's available to ordinary retail investors. And according to the, public reports anyone can look up, in the first quarter of this year, investors, they asked to pull out about 14% of their money. The fund, they capped it at 7%. In other words, they got about half of what they were asking for. In the second quarter, investors asked for 17%. The fund capped it at 5%. They got about 1/3 of what they were asking for. But Cliffwater's not alone. According to numerous reports, BlackRock, they capped withdrawals on one of their lending funds at about 5% after investors were asking for nearly double. And BlackRock, they allowed a record redemption on its fund only after it tapped roughly $150 million from its own senior executives and another $250 million from the firm itself, according to reports. Now, let that one sink in. A firm reportedly put its own partner's money in so its investors could get their money out. The Financial Stability Board, they flagged this exact dynamic in a report back in May. When more people want out than the fund can pay, well, then generally what happens is the first ones out get full value. And everybody else just waits in line. Which means the rational thing to do is the moment you suspect trouble, you should probably run for the door immediately. And of course, that kind of behavior multiplied across thousands of people, well, it creates the very thing that many people are afraid of. My opinion is that this is really a bank run with better manners. Now, the fourth thing, and we now come to this. On the 11th of July, a bill became law in the country without the president's signature. He had a signing ceremony planned. He declined to sign over an unrelated dispute. And under the Constitution, it became law anyway 10 days after it reached his desk. It's called the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. It's a housing bill. But buried in Title 11, Section 1101, is a provision that prohibits the Federal Reserve from using a central bank digital currency directly or through any intermediary until, ready for this? The 31st of December, 2030. Now, a lot of good people cheered that, and I guess I understand why. But read the rest of it. That prohibition contains a sunset. It expires, and it contains an explicit carve-out for stablecoins. Stablecoins described in the text as dollar-denominated currency that is open, permissionless, and confidential. So what happened is this. Congress banned the government version and protected the private version in the same paragraph. And the private version already has its framework. The Genius Act was signed in July of last year. In fact, it takes effect on the 18th of January, 2027. That's just 5 months from now, folks. And Catherine Austin Fitts, who's sat at this desk right over here, made an argument about this. And I want you to hear it. Because it's not the argument that you would expect. She said the private version is more concerning than the government version. And her reason is accountability. A central bank issuing a digital currency has statutory obligations to Congress. It can be compelled to disclose. A private issuer operating inside a government framework does not carry the same obligations to you, the citizen. So I want to be careful and precise here because our audience, demands that from us. I'm not telling you tonight that a stable coin is the mark of the beast. I don't know that. But I am telling you, the Bible makes very clear a system is being built where no man can buy or sell unless they have the mark. And it looks like to me a system is being put together. So what I'm not saying is this, and let me be clear about what I'm not telling you tonight. I'm not telling you the market crashes next month. Nobody on this earth knows that. What I am telling you is there are plenty signs of bubbles, plenty of bubbles. And I'll get into more of that tonight on Brannon Howse Live. What I am saying is most of what I've described tonight, most people do not know, nor do they understand. Many are just opening up their mail from their financial, investment company and celebrating what they're making. The question is, are you ready for bubbles to pop? When? I don't know. But the signs for the popping, I think, are pretty clear. The question is, do you really understand the times and know how you should be responding? All I'm here to do is give you information and education. You need to go do your own homework and your own due diligence. We'll get into more of this tonight on Brannon Howse Live. That does it for this edition of the Worldview Report. As always, thank you for tuning in and supporting the broadcast at worldviewfoundation.com. Until next time, I'm Brannon Howse. May God save America. Take care.
Welcome to Technocracy News with your host, Patrick Wood. I'm your co-host, Logan Howse. Today, we have multiple articles over there at Technocracy News, Patrick, that we're going to be covering. And the first one is one that we've covered before, and it's kind of an update. We have an update on the issue. You people may remember us covering this article here. NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange are tokenizing the $126 trillion equity market. And that was a big story back in March. And I believe you had many pieces out on Technocracy.news about it. Well, now we have JP Morgan, Goldman, and 38 others test trading of tokenized assets across Wall Street using blockchain-based representations of real-world assets, securities, including equities and bonds, and operating under the SEC's December 2025 no-action letter that covers Russell 1000 stocks and major ETFs. The Titans of Wall Street put the pedal to the metal for 4 hours. The test was a successful proof of concept, and DTCC is planning to move forward toward a live October 2026 launch. The trading system will be operational by the end of 2026.
We said in the first place back in March that this would be the case. They said at that point that the whole thing would be completed by the end of this year, and that just blew everybody away. What they never heard about this tokenization of everything, and you're going to have it in just a few months. Here we are, and this is going to be revolutionary in the stock market for sure. But we have to remember, this is not about payment tokens. So what the Federal Reserve wanted to do in the first place was to create payment tokens. This is not payment tokens at all. This is the tokens resulting in the tokenization of assets, not debt, not payment tokens. So this is another class that people are struggling with this, trying to understand what it means for them. When they talk about your house might be tokenized, or your fleet of cars might be tokenized, that sort of stuff, it's really hard for people to understand what tokenization means. They can kind of understand the payment tokens because we have, for instance, PayPal. We have Zelle, payment systems like that that can transfer money from you to me or whatever, back and forth very easily. But this is another level of tokenization, and this is where the big societal upheaval will come. I think this is the beginning of you will own nothing. I'm just saying. This was I brought this up in my book, The New Economics of Technocracy, by the way, the subtitle, You Will Own Nothing. This is a part of it. And the asset tokenization class is going to be going crazy. And if you look down at this in this article, you'll see a chart. And this is the tokenized asset value is current, I think, June or maybe even August. It's risen 400% since 2025, and you might see when you look at the year 2025, you'll see a sort of a shelf there on that chart. I don't know if you could put a cursor on it, or circle, whatever, to display it, but you see the little shelf here. That was when Trump got inaugurated. And after that, then it just shot up like a rocket ship
right here
to where it is right now. So you see President Trump with his push with all the tech bros in Washington to get this new asset class established. It's been established. And here we are. This does not include anything to do with stocks at this point, or the New York Stock Exchange, or the NASDAQ. This is just other assets that have been tokenized around the world. So you might imagine from here on, where will it go beyond $38 billion. Well, 400% next year, maybe from 12 months from now, it'll probably be another 400%. And so this is coming on the world. That's all I can say. That it's coming on the world. At this point, there's no way we can stop it because the powers that be, like the J.P. Morgans and Black Rocks of the world, they're the ones that are driving the whole process in the first place. So you can't stop them per se. But I'll tell you what, we see the freight train coming at us. That's all I can say.
Wow, and this is mainly due to all the policies by President Trump, right? And the executive orders that he signed promoting the tokenization of assets.
That's exactly right. And not only that, the executive orders, then we have the Genius Act last year that was split apart from the Clarity Act. By the way, that did not pass in this current, from the last session. They have a narrow window now to get it passed when Congress gets into session. I think it's early September. So they have a narrow window to get that passed. They might get it. They might not. I think there'd be other workarounds at that point that they will pursue. But the Clarity Act would really set this whole thing in stone. All the asset tokenization nonsense. So yeah, this is a big deal, and oh boy, I tell you, it just makes my head spin. I grew up in the stock market business, by the way. I was a young stockbroker when I got out of college for several years. This is an industry I really understand very well. It hasn't changed much over the years, I have to say. It's been riskier, and it's had AI has been advanced to the point where traders are using it to trade stocks now. I think there's something like 40% of all trades are based on AI at this point. That's dangerous in itself.
Yeah,
because who has their finger on the button? Well, AI. if AI ever decides to, it's time to sell, all the stock markets is going to be sold within 5 minutes. So
even if it's just a glitch, right? Even if it, messes up, imagine if it decided to sell. That is true. What if it tried to decide to sell every piece of stock that it has control over?
There's legislation, well, not legislation, but there's rules being floated at this point that there needs to be a limit where AI will be disabled if there's a stock market crash. I don't know how that would work out, honestly, because the people that are trading with AI, they've lost their ability to understand the market. They're not in touch with the market at all at that point because AI is executing all the trades and pushing stocks up or down or whatever, doesn't matter. But if the people that own the money, their own portfolios, they're out of touch with the world at this point. So if AI is disabled somehow and we don't have AI to rely on, what are we going to do? We're going to panic. We're going to, and you'd be worse off with people than AI at that point.
Yeah, and also the fear of having AI in control of a portfolio to be able to sell the stock. I mean, imagine if someone was able to get control of that. Say someone inside the company was able to get control and wanted to bring down a certain stock so they could come in, right? I mean, the possibilities for that are there.
It is, and AI at this point is so sophisticated that you don't have to worry about a human keeping up at that point. AI can make decisions so fast that you can't see what's happening. And so if it wants to, for instance, execute a pump and dump operation by manipulating the price of the movement of the stock, but selling this amount of shares here, that amount over here, then buying them back over here, it can do that kind of operation so fast you never even perceive it. But the intended outcome might be the price shoots up or the price drops. How would they trace it at that point? Well, they probably have forensic tools, perhaps, to figure out what happened. But that'll be after the fact.
Yeah, the damage will already be done, right?
That's right.
Wow. So the main piece of this article is to show that what we were talking about in March has now been tested and is going to be operational by the end of 2026.
That's right. That's exactly right. And their forecast was correct in the first place. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And it'll be done. It'll be executed by the end of this year. And here we are. We're approaching now the last quarter.
Yeah.
And, go figure. They've been successful.
Well, we're almost up on a break. And if tokenization of the market doesn't sound crazy, what about tokenization of water? That's the next article we'll cover after the break. Tokenization of H2O. Is O2 next? So we'll cover that here right after this break in just a moment.
Friends, this is Brannon Howse. For more than a year now, I've been teaching through the book of Revelation, and the response from you has been overwhelming. You've asked me again and again, when are you going to put this study in print? We want to mark it up. We want to share it with our families. Well, it's here. My brand new 2-volume commentary on the book of Revelation, verse by verse, chapter by chapter. This is not a watered down, allegorized replacement theology approach to Revelation. This is a literal, grammatical, historical study, the way the Lord intended his word to be read. And I connect the prophecy of Revelation to the headlines you're watching unfold right now, the rise of global government and the convergence of end-time events the Lord Jesus warned us about. Folks, we are living in serious days, and there has never been a more important time to understand what God has told us about what is coming. Get your 2-volume Revelation commentary today at worldviewstore.com. That's worldviewstore.com.
Introducing Worldview Tube Vault. Over 35 years of radio broadcasts, television programs, documentaries, and ebooks. Plus, Worldviewpedia, our powerful search engine for instant worldview and Bible research. Join for as little as $7.99 a month. And now, Vault members get something brand new, courses. Our very first course is here, the Book of Revelation with Brannon Howse. 53 in-depth lessons, complete with overview quizzes, walking you verse by verse through one of the most important books in Scripture. Getting started is simple. Go to worldviewtube.com/vault and join today. Already a member? Visit worldviewtube.com, click the person icon in the top right, and log in. Then hover over Vault in the menu and select Courses. That's it. You're in. Join WorldviewTube Vault today at worldviewtube.com/vault.
All right, welcome back from the break. Let's go on to this article here. Tokenization of H2O. Is O2 next? Water is the foundation of life itself. The UN says we are entering an age of global water bankruptcy, and therefore we should be subjected to bankruptcy management, where conservators are appointed by the court to manage the sale of remaining assets. Hence, tokenization enters stage right. Sell the scarcity to the world in a price auction. The whole scheme is indisputably evil. So the elites are claiming the water supply and plan to trade it on the stock market. Oh, man, Patrick. I mean, it doesn't get more crazy than that.
I know. Let's survey the landscape here since Agenda 21 was passed in 1992. First, we had global warming. We had the threat of the millennium. They said. Al Gore said the seas are going to rise and the polar ice caps are going to melt, and we're all going to be underwater in 12 years. He said the coastal cities will be wiped out. Of course, that his deadline came and went. It didn't happen. But nevertheless, they pursued this whole thing of global warming to tell the world, you're all doomed. You're all doomed, and you have to do this, whatever this is. You have to do this to protect yourself, just like we say, right? This is the biggest scam I ever saw in my life. This is how they got all this nonsense with carbon trading and all that kind of stuff passed, or not in practice, let's say. And then on top of that, we had the COVID debacle, where the air you breathe is going to kill you. You have to do this right now, or you're going to all die. Isn't that what they said? Basically, yeah. They said, well, if just obey us and do what we say, or you're all going to die. And everybody marched off with masks on their face and social distancing, et cetera, crazy. We know that this was all false, phony. Now, so, well, what are they going to do for an encore? Oh, let's pick on water. We have to have, the air is important, and the carbon is important. Let's pick on another element or a molecule, the H2O. You can't live for three days, I think, without water. So, we're all going to die because of water scarcity. And if you don't do what we say, you're all going to die. How stupid do they think we are? Yeah. Just not to see through this. It's incredible to me, but they're still pursuing this stuff. Now, this is all coming from the United Nations, by the way. I didn't have the articles posted in here. I think there's the link in here to some of the stuff that the United Nations had put out. But the United Nations is pushing this mantra that the water supply in the world is essentially bankrupt. Bankrupt. That means you have to appoint a conservator. That's what bankruptcy means. When you go to a court, if you were personally going bankrupt, you'd go to the court and say, Your Honor, I have all these debts and I don't have assets to cover it, and I need relief. I need to get released from the debts or whatever. Well, if you have like an operating business or something that's ongoing, like society, the judge will appoint a conservator. There's people that do that the bankruptcy court have people like that. Usually they're like a CPA, but not necessarily. But a person is appointed to take charge of all your assets, basically put you out on the street, and then negotiate the sale of all those assets until you're, flat on your back, bankrupt. Okay, this is what they're proposing at this point. That the world is bankrupt as far as water is concerned. We're going to take action now. We're going to take action now, and we're going to save the world from dying of thirst. Let me tell you how thin this is, Logan. I just looked this up on, maybe Claude or whatever, some AI engine. How much water has been escaped into outer space, because that's a possibility, or is there been a static amount of water in the world since the world was created? Essentially, there's been no exchange at all between other assets. Other than water, there's the same amount of water today in the world that there was yesterday, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. It doesn't matter. The same amount of water today is here in the world, present and accounted for. And yeah, we have droughts. Yeah, we have dislocations where water dries up in one area and then it goes to another area, perhaps. but there's no disappearance of water from the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So what does this mean? This whole thing is just a sham.
Yeah. The only thing that's really using more water than usual are the data centers, right? Which a lot of those are recycled water, right? And they're using the same water over and over again.
Well, they might be, but the point is there's no disappearance of water.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't disappear into thin air.
Yeah.
It's still there, even if it's dirty. But hey, water gets dirty, and it's dirty in the ocean too, with all the salt and other stuff that you wouldn't be wanting to drink. But the same water is still on planet Earth, but they're saying, "Oh, we're bankrupt for water." That's just totally absurd.
Yeah. So how are they proposing that this is gonna? What they're saying, tokenizing it, tradable water, tiered pricing. Yes. I put their article in here to get some bullet points. Tiered pricing, pay more when you use more. I mean, that's already kind of what happens, right? I mean, if you use more water in your energy bill, you get a higher energy bill. So
yes, this is exactly the idea here. When you make something scarce, everybody wants it all of a sudden, and you're going to pay more for it. How free is water in the first place? Well, we pay for our water treatment systems. For instance, in my town, you have one that's a well. But if you lived in the country and had a well and you had the electricity to pump the well, or maybe a hand pump, your water's free, absolutely free at that point. You pay for the service to get it to you, but otherwise it's free. It's a free asset, like air is a free asset to people as well. So, what have they done over time? The people, the elite rich, they take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and pump it into the ground. What's all that? What's that about? Well, yeah, we're talking major pipelines that have been created to pump quantities of CO2 and put it into the ground where we'll never see it again. And they say this is good for the world. We have to get rid of all the CO2 in the world. What? We need CO2, for Pete's sake, for green plants to grow that turn around and give us oxygen. What are they thinking? Well, these are the people that are executing this plan to tokenize water at this point. Same plan. Make it scarce, charge people for it, and they didn't have to charge it for it, but they're making it an asset class now. You'll be paying more for your water because you need it for your life to continue. If you don't have water for three days, you're dead.
Wow.
So anyway, this is a big story. I had to put it up, and so anyway.
And there's a lot there. You can. I went to the J.P. Morgan or the Goldman Sachs report, and there's a lot there, right? I mean, a lot of charts.
They thought this through. They really thought it through. Just like the global warming scam, just like the COVID scam. Now we have the water scam. That's all I can say. That's right. Yeah. When will we ever learn, Logan? I don't know. Humanity is very slow to learn a lesson.
Yep. Well, let's go. We have 2 minutes left. The world reacts to Sam Altman's vision of the future. I think this is your note here. Unfortunately, I think Altman is right when he says AI will have perfect context for your whole life and that it will occur sometime in the next 6 months. This is reminiscent of the Black Mirror episode Nosedive, where based on total transparency of activities, a social credit system took over society. Fantasy aside, for this and other reasons, I have moved my AI multiplier to 3.3 from 3.5, which forecasts the speed of doubling capacity. The multiplier is currently at 48 and the baseline has moved to 47.69 before the new rate kicked in. And you have a chart here, Patrick, with projections at the current rate that you have it set at. December 31st, you have the multiplier to be at 122 when it is currently, as we're on air, 48.25. By December 31st, 2027, 1,500. And by December 31st, 2028, 18,900. Can you imagine AI being at the capacity of 18,900 times what it is now? I mean,
this is only from the start of 2024-5 when Trump got inaugurated. Not going back, for instance, to when ChatGPT was released, 3.3 or whatever it was in the first place. So this is just since President Trump came in. This is his term, in other words. So yes, it's advancing like crazy, and there's new stuff coming online every day. It seems like at this point, vis-a-vis AI capabilities, and it's entering us into an era of future shock where nobody can make sense of anything.
Yeah, and we're almost we're out of time, but I want to read what Altman said in this interview with Corey Levy, founder of Z Fellows. He said, "I think we are close to a world where you have like a descendant of ChatGPT watch your computer screen all of the time, watch every meeting you're in, record every call, everything like that, have perfect context of your whole life, everything you see. You choose what information you want it to have, yeah, right. But you can connect it to your text or emails or docs or Slack. Then you have this thing that is not making decisions for you. But if you're like the CEO of a startup, there is always more stuff to do when you can do. You can have this thing that's working alongside you. I think that's where we're only like one model generation away from this actually being incredibly useful. And I think hopefully for me, it will change the way I work." And he says sometimes, he was asked his best guess on timing for something like this. And he said sometime in the next 6 months. But he says, you choose what information you want to have. I don't know if that's true. I don't think you'll choose. I don't.
You can't help it.
Once you give it control of your computer, yeah. I mean, how are you going to stop it from going through your whole computer?
Exactly. AI will force you to drink from a fire hose. Mm-hmm. So,
wow.
This is a big story.
Well, we're all out of time for today. We'll be back Thursday. Another report. Till then.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon Howse.
Welcome back to Live Up to Freedom. Thank you so much for joining me today, Wednesday, August 19, 2026. Wow, life goes by fast. I'm so glad you're here. We are live on worldviewtube.com, worldviewtube, Rumble and X, and worldviewtube app, which is available for free on your app store. We're also live on X America News and live on my platforms are Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, X, and Substack. Join the conversation as you wish. I will check on the comment sections as I always do. It is so good to be back. And this time, Lord willing, we are back. Because last week, Tuesday, I came back, but then I had to actually go off air again and then come back today. But Lord willing, we're back. A lot to talk about, a lot to discuss, but I must start here. Yesterday was a very sad day for all Iranians, for all truth tellers and journalists across the world, and specifically for Iran International. One of their best, sharpest, smartest, and bravest journalists lost her battle to cancer. Farhnaz Espat. She was only 37 years old. She battled cancer for 2 years, and as I said, we lost her yesterday. I would like to extend my condolences to her husband, to her mother, father, brother, and sister, to everyone at Iran International for losing her, and also, as I said, to all Iranians and journalists out there. She will be missed. She escaped Iran about 10 years ago, at age 26 or so, started her collaboration with Manoto TV, and then 8 years ago joined Iran International. Very brave soul. She was a patriot. She fought for Iran. Better yet, she fought for a free Iran the short time she had as a journalist. So I would like to ask you to keep Farhnaz Espat in your prayers and her family as they go through this tough time. And of course, she is in our hearts and prayers as well. And though she may not be here anymore, her message and her mission shall carry on. There are still enough of us out here who will continue speaking out, do the journalism, do the truth-telling, and remember her hard works. That being said, when we heard the news, for those of you who are on my Substack, you might have seen, though I took off from my show and Substack for a couple of weeks, there was one time that I posted a Substack, and yesterday kind of reopened that wound for many of us, not just me. For many of us, it did, and it's the concept of exile. And the original Substack I wrote a few weeks ago was in a way the same topic, and I received some interesting different sorts of response to it. However, I want to reopen that on my show because I haven't discussed this, not that I recall, on my show. So I want to address something not for my sake or even the sake of everyone in exile. It's more of your sake. by you, I mean the audience who were blessed enough to be born and raised in the same homeland and not ever have to even imagine what exile could mean. When the news of Farahnoz was out by Iran International, the banner had this sentence that said, the exile can last a lifetime for some people. And that is very true. We don't give up hope, but some who are in exile will never make it home. And I want to set the record straight, not that I should after all these years, but longing for your homeland does not take away from your patriotism, gratitude, and love of your current home. Try to understand that. I know it's hard, but I need you to try. And I say this to those of you who wrote me or commented and said, why don't you go back if you miss it so much? I need you to understand that human beings have the capability, or at least I do, have the capability to fight for America with everything I have, while still praying and hoping to one day walk the streets that I grew up in. They don't compete with each other. They complete each other. They motivate our mission. Those of us who are fighting the Islamic Republic of Iran, those of us who are fighting the Islamic regime, IRGC, Quds Forces, Islamization, either you'll like it or not, the base motivation of our fight is our exile. That is not a sign of disrespect to our homes, that mine is America today, and that is absolutely not worthy of you going out of your way to tell me to go back if I miss it and love it so much. When you do that, you just prove what an ignorant, spoiled brat you are. Now, back to the topic. Exile never becomes normal. I've been in exile for 24 years now. I have adapted the situation. I have assimilated to the culture that welcomed me, and that one is beyond question. You all know that. However, exile is still exile. And yesterday event for Farahnoz was yet another reminder that the exile will never end. This doesn't mean I'm discouraged. This doesn't mean I'm giving up. I need to insert those notes because it tend to automatically be translated to one of those. No, I am blessed. I am happy. I am at peace. However, the never-ending exile is refired in the back of my head as to so many factors into this formula of including, average citizens of our now homes who can't even bother to have the grace to even stand still. I believe I said that on my Substack, or maybe I deleted that part, but it's like, I want you to stop, close your eyes, and try, just attempt, just try to imagine a day when you are forced out of America to a country that you don't know anything about. Wonderful even, with guarantee that you come back under current system of this country, you shall be killed. I want you to try to imagine that. It's going to be impossible, but somewhere in your heart, you're going to feel a very sharp pain, literal physical pain of, ouch. So to those who, for any reason, cannot comprehend, when you don't comprehend a feeling, you should stay neutral about that feeling for your own sake. For those of you who have been gracious enough to try to understand that feeling, I appreciate you. Though you can't, and I pray that you never have to. One of the reasons I fight the fight I do every day, one way or another, is that I want to make sure none of my fellow Americans ever have to experience what a lot of people inside America experience. Some of them have to just keep their mouth shut because they get attacked if they ever show any compassion or longing to their motherlands, because immediately you should be just go back. And that's another thing. Circumstances in life, believe it or not, if you're outside of America, if you were not blessed to be born and raised in America, if any leftist ever watches my show, you don't understand this sentence when I say, if you were not blessed enough to be born and raised in America, you have no comprehension of that sentence on its own, because you don't understand what a blessing it is. But outside of America, even our neighbor right here, Mexico, over there, Canada, there is always that feeling of shh. There's a movie, Iranian movie, relevant. The title of the movie translated to English is Shh, Girls Don't Scream. Wonderful movie. The story title gives it away. But generally outside of America, everybody has that shh feeling. And that's what I fight for. I want to make sure my fellow Americans never have to actually adapt to that feeling of shh. The danger could be death, could be arrest, could be losing your status, could be becoming second-class citizen, all of that. But you do not have, to this day, you haven't had the unfortunate moment of having to even think about that feeling. So I'm encouraging you to start thinking about it. One, could be a good preparation for you. It can prepare you for what could possibly come if we continue the way we are. Two, when you come across someone who could have different feelings than yours, and it could be offensive to your patriotism because they're not full-on American blood, you might have snapped yourself out of sounding extremely ridiculous. So yes, exile is different than migration. That's another differentiation I want to draw here. Guys, there are those who have immigrated by choice for a better life. There are those who were forced out of their motherlands. There is a difference. There is a huge difference. It's a matter of force versus choice. I'm not saying they don't miss their homes, but the number one difference is they can actually go back and visit. Could they be in trouble? Yes. But again, there's a choice involved. If you can't differentiate, then again, I'm going to say this. I learned this today and I thought, wow, I can relate to this thing. It starts with, I'm going to say this once and 3 times only. Try to snap out of your little cute bubble and try to relate. The reason I say that, it's not because I want us all to coexist or get along. No, because things are about to get really rough. You do not want to lose your best allies because you're so ignorant. Believe it or not, some of us are going to become extremely handy when things get worse. You do not want to be the guy who told us to pack up and go to the blank hole we come from. Because there's always a possibility that that person might say, oh, now you need my help? No. We are divided as it is. We are discouraged as it is. There is no reason for your lack of suffering to become your future lack of support from those who know how to adapt, who know how to deal, how to spot, how to manage, and how to fight. Don't ask me why all of that was in my heart to talk about today. As I said, yesterday's event with losing Farahnoz triggered that again in my head. So I figured I'll take the first segment. Bare minimum, in honor of her exile never ending, I will just try to inform some people out there that there is such a thing as exile, and there is such a thing as the pain and the sorrow that comes with it, no matter how our current lives are great. Deep down, the sorrow is there. Let's pray for her and her family. We're going to take our first ad break. When I come back, I'll check the comments and we move on to our next subject. Right back, guys. everybody, it's Annie Cyrus. Welcome to my art studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. Finish this painting, but I'm sure, or at least I hope, I'll see you at lutfstudio.com. Welcome back. Thanks so much for staying with me until now. And yes, go to lutfstudio.com. We are very, very, very short on inventory. I think, 17, 18 items, but there are still items there. Pick up a piece or two or, 5, place a custom order, and I will be resuming some creation there soon, building the Christmas inventory. But lutfstudio.com, promo code MISSION gets you a special discount. This is so weird, but I'm probably gonna try to ask Thomas this. Last week we were under a tornado watch, the warning watch, go to basement, whatever. At some point in the basement, I heard this really loud noise upstairs. I'm like, windows came down. Anyways, I can back up later. And in this very room, I realized that my globe, which I have over there, fell. The vibration was loud enough for it to fail. And 3 pieces of my soundproofing and blackout over at the window fell off as well. I completely forgot about them until I sat here to do the show today. I'm like, oh no. But I'm looking like, wow, that lighting looks really good in the room. So I might just leave them down for the purpose of lighting, like there's a good lighting in the room. Let's get to the comments. Hello, everybody on Substack, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and X. I do see your comments. I will agree with everybody, including Go Away. Yes, you cannot fix the stupid. That is very true. But you can address stupid. And Deborah said it's called empathy. And not too many people have it, unfortunately. The love of many has grown cold. Yes, Deborah, that is very true. But then in my experience, personally, it's not the empathy part. There are plenty empathetic. It's their patriotism, right? It's like the moment you're either all in or you're not in America. It's that ignorant part of their mind that they don't understand that you can fully love, assimilate, become an American, Canadian, wherever your final destination was, but it still I know so many Americans who have never even traveled from their state to the next state. They don't grasp what it means to leave it all behind and not know if you'll ever see it again. And in the meantime, as Go Away mentioned, part of the Substack I release is another funeral you won't be able to attend. It's, when the streets change and the buildings go down and new ones are built and the parks are changing and your family members and loved ones are dying, and you realize that the time is moving there too. So that's every single, in my Substack, like I said, every time I lose a loved one, it's just that reminder that there might be nothing left to go to, which is okay. It's part of life. But they can't understand that. It's not the empathy. It's that we let you come to America. You better just bow to America. I'm like, I'm doing more for America than you have, FYI. That doesn't mean I shouldn't feel, miss my country or call it. Someone actually was very upset that I called, my motherland. I'm like, what do you want me to do? Would you like me to have a full blood transfusion and ask a full American to donate blood so I don't have Persian bloods either? Like, what's wrong with you? It is my motherland. Farsi is my mother tongue. Like, it is why is this offensive to you? I'd be lying if I say America is my motherland. It's not. I was not born here. Like, this is words. Like, I'm using my words carefully, and they were offended that I referred to Ron as my mother. And I'm like, well, that goes back to Galway's comment of you can't fix the stupid in that specific level. So, Lori, I believe, thank you, Lori. I'm having a good hair day. The name of the young lady who passed away yesterday was Farnaz Spand. I know that's not easy to look up, but the easy way is you can go to Iran International website. They have a beautiful post about her, and in English, her name is written there if you want to find it. And I am not, let me see who said it, Blur. I am not stopping. I appreciate what you said, but trust me, I am not stopping. Okay, let me make sure I'm not missing, because I keep forgetting. Hello, YouTube. Wow, we're busy on YouTube today. Hi, everybody. Good to see you on YouTube, Wisconsin. Hi, Clint from Wisconsin. We're going to be in Wisconsin soon. October 23rd and 4th, Worldview Tube event is on October 23rd and 4th. It is for free, absolutely free, but you do need to register. So go to worldviewtube.com/events, I believe. If not, just on the homepage of Worldview Tube, you can find it. Sign up. It is for free, but you got to get your seat and bring a friend. It's going to be an amazing event. As I've said on Brannon's show before, every week I change the presentation because it's like, oh, okay, I'm not going to talk about this anymore. But it's going to be pretty amazing if let me see if I can do this. Patrick Wood's going to be there, and Wood and Andy Woods. I get their last name wrong, but Pastor Andy and Patrick Wood. Alex Newman is going to be there. Brannon himself, yours truly, and I'm missing, I know, many other names, but it's going to be a great event. We're going to be heading to Wisconsin. So get your free tickets, more like register for free, and we'll see you there. Hey, Pookie, good to see you on YouTube. Okay, I think, oh, hi, Heather. So good to see you. Thank you. I agree. The sliding, it happened accidentally, and it was a happy accident. And for tomorrow, I'll make sure that the focus on camera is good, because I just looked and I'm like, wow, talk about being, all blurry almost. I don't have enough wrinkles to say it works good for me, but I'll fix it tomorrow. Let me see if I have enough time to do this. Actually, so in about 7 minutes, we're going to go to our ad break. I think the video I have is about 3.5. So let me do the plug, and then we go to Robert Spencer, and then we go to ad. I want to thank everybody for being so patient. Those of you who stayed with me during the last, especially 6 weeks of me disappearing from all platforms, thank you. And praise the Lord. It is all done. The Quran Paradox is out. I don't know if you can, the lighting may not help, but there we go. I should have updated the graphic for Thomas, but that's all right. You can purchase the book. The hardcover and the Kindle are available on Amazon. Paperback and audiobook coming next week. Also, you can order your signed copies on my website, liveuptofreedom.com. I want to be very clear. The signed copies are not going to be out of the store tomorrow. So if you make your order, please be patient. I have mentioned on all pages that it might be a 5 to 6 weeks processing time. It's not going to be that long, but you know me, I like to buy time. But the pre-order of the signed copies are ready. We have brought back The Architecture of Jihad, a signed copy as well, except this time they're going to be hardcover copies. So you can either get The Architecture of Jihad or The Quran Paradox, or we have a bundle offer on the website. You can get them both if you missed the first round of The Architecture of Jihad. Both books are hardcover, and I'll sign them myself. It's not a stamp or, somebody else doing it. So we are set. The Quran Paradox and The Architecture of Jihad available on liveuptofreedom.com. Signed copies are ready to go out. And if you just want to get a hard cover or the Kindle for now, you can head to Amazon, just look up the Quran Paradox. Again, the name is the Quran Paradox. And I was very honored about 10 days ago on the Glazov Gang production when Jamie Glazov had Robert Spencer, who have honored me by forwarding my book, made comments about the book. And I wanted to share those words because I don't take words of my mentors lightly. And I thought, since he was generous enough to not just forward the book, but also say words, very surprising and humbling words about the book, we're going to go ahead and hear Jamie Glazov and Robert Spencer on the Quran Paradox. From there, we're going to straight go to our ad break, come back, and talk more. Stay tuned.
Tell us about Annie Cyrus's upcoming book, The Quran Paradox, which might be even better than Architecture of Jihad. What's really remarkable, Jamie, is that I've had the honor of knowing Annie Cyrus, not very well, but we've met a few times and we've done some shows. And of course, we've worked together on your show on many occasions. And so it's been many years. I don't even remember when I first met Annie, but it was probably 20 years ago or more. And never did I know that she was capable of this superb work that she's doing. And I mean no insult in that. It's just that this has really opened my eyes as to her capabilities in terms of being able to articulate in a concise, clear, well-organized, compelling, and indeed irrefutable fashion, both if in the first place in the Architecture of Jihad, the different forms of jihad and how they are being waged today. And then in her upcoming book, The Quran Paradox, watch for it, folks, the contradictions in the Quran, what Islamic apologists say in order to try to explain them away, and why those explanations fall short. And so the clarity and the conciseness, the organization of these books is unsurpassed. And these are indispensable guides. If you want to know what is happening to our country today, why it's happening, and what we can do to combat it, you got to get both of Annie Cyrus's books, The Architecture of Jihad and the upcoming Quran Paradox. Bookmark this video. Remember that, write it down, The Quran Paradox. When it becomes available, snap it up.
I'm reading it right now. It's absolutely fascinating. Annie is not just brilliant, but so original. And I've never read about this before, and she's showing how the Quran sets up a certain standard for itself of how to be understood. But then because of what's in the Quran, it actually fails its own standards and tests, right?
That's it. It's a brilliant treatment of the question, because a lot of people have pointed out contradictions in the Quran before, but never before has there been such an in-depth look at how those contradictions are dealt with within Islamic tradition, and how the Quran doesn't even manage to live up to what it says about itself.
Yeah, just brilliant and very, very unique and original. And what a privilege and honor it is to have Annie as our colleague and the producer of this show and our friend.
Life is too short to spend a single moment spinning in laundry worries. Take a load off your mind with the all-new Norwex Powerzyme laundry detergent. This natural detergent harnesses the power of enzymes and plant-based surfactants to leave fabrics fresh and clean without fillers, brighteners, synthetic fragrances, bleach, or harsh chemicals. So go ahead, have your cake and eat it too. More than ever, stressful stains have met their match. Powerzyme's fast-acting enzymes break down organic substances while natural surfactants loosen locked-in dirt and oil, removing residue, stains, and odors with ease. With 91% bio-based ingredients, this dermatologist-tested hypoallergenic formula is suitable for sensitive skin types and delivers a safe and effective clean that won't harm you or the planet's waterways. Less time spent worrying about laundry means you can focus on what truly matters. Norwex Powerzyme Laundry Detergent. Discover the power of nature and load up on confidence.
Welcome back to Live Up to Freedom. Thanks so much for staying with me until now. And again, shout out to Jamie Glazo, Robert Spencer, many other names who were involved. However, we just played that clip, so I figured I should thank them again. Jamie, which actually today is his birthday. I already sent him the happy birthday message this morning, but happy birthday again, Jamie. He has been a great support, a mentor. He's the reason I am sitting here today. He's the one who told me I need to have my own show while I was producing his. And then last year he told me it's time for you to become an author. So a lot of this is due to Jamie just telling me that I'm ready. Yes, the Quran Paradox is available. Thank you. I just saw a comment that someone added to their carts. Yes, again, from last book, I learned that it seemed to be frustrating when I just kept telling you it's coming, it's coming. So this time I didn't say anything until it was there. I'm like, it's out, go get it. So the hardcover and the Kindle are available on Amazon. Paperback will be available Monday, the 24th. Two people asked. Yes, there will be an audiobook, most likely by Monday or Tuesday. However, they're all in the same Amazon page. So you can just bookmark the Amazon page or go to my website, liveuptofreedom.com, bookmark the page of the book. As the other formats come available, the links will pop up automatically in those pages. The audiobook is ready. It has been already submitted. It takes a little longer for audiobook to be approved, not because of the content, but because of the quality approval. It is, I pretty much this time, I know some of you were a little unhappy. The Architecture of Jihad was not me. So the Quran Paradox is Michael Lauber, who generously not only loaned his voice, but time and patience, and myself. We did it together, and it will be available very soon. As I said, Monday or Tuesday. If not, as I come on air, I'll let you know, because I know that some of you have asked. This time, unlike last time, it's a learning process, right? This is the second book, so I learned some stuff, and that was get all the formats. And also, don't announce, don't tease, don't say it's coming. Just tell people it's out there, go get it. So go get it. Signed copies. Christine, I think you are the one who asked me. If you get the individual copies, they are $50 plus shipping. If you get the bundle, it's $85 plus shipping. As I said, I created the bundle because I know many people who purchased the paperback signed copy, they later said they would like to have a hardcover, and I actually just got the hardcover of the Architecture of Jihad on my hand, so it is going to be hardcover. The Quran Paradox hardcover proof will be here tomorrow, so I don't have that one to show you. I showed you the paperback. So all available, 4 formats available. And signed copies, you can get just one, or if you get the bundle, you get it for $85 plus shipping. The shipping rate is flat rate, $10. And I'm so sorry, but the shipping of the signed copies are available for United States of America only. If you're outside US, I will gladly ship you a signed copy. However, that's going to be outside of the norm. I need to calculate your tariffs and shippings and all of that. We did that with Architecture of Jihad with few orders, but when you go directly to the website to place your orders, it will block you if your address is not inside US. I had other people outside of US who had their friends or family in the US receive the book and then separately ship it to them outside of US. So again, because of the tariffs and shippings, there's just impossibility for me to manage all of it. I apologize for the inconvenience if you're outside US. Inside US, the flat rate is $10. Either you get one or you get both. It's the same. And just like Architecture of Jihad, we are going to limit the quantity of the available signed copies. on both books. So place your orders if you like to have a signed copy of both or just one. And I hope that answered. Oh, thank you, Christine. I got to give a shout out again. Lori, you already know. I'll tell you what, guys, the Cyrus Crew concept has become way more than just a Cyrus Crew concept, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me say this. The Cyrus Crew members of Substack, meaning those of you who are paid subscribers of a Cyrus Crew, please do not place orders. Remember, you receive a free signed copy of the Quran Paradox because you're already an advanced paid subscriber. I will reach out to you by end of the week if I don't already have your email address,